Even alien soldiers won't take jobs hunting human special forces. Part 1. The contract nobody wanted. The Mercenary Guild was the oldest and most respected military contractor in the galaxy. For 3,000 years, their warriors had fought wars for hire across 100 star systems. They had killed kings and presidents. They had protected treasure ships and destroyed pirate fleets. They had hunted the most dangerous criminals in known space and never failed to collect their bounty. Their reputation was perfect, and they were very proud of this fact. High Commander Al was the leader of the guild. He was old and experienced, with 4 eyes that had seen more battles than most species lived years. When a new contract request arrived from the Dominion Council, he read it with interest. The Dominion was a powerful empire that controlled dozens of star systems. They were currently fighting a war against the humans, a relatively new species that had only been traveling among the stars for about 200 years. The contract was simple: find and kill a 12-member human special operations unit that was causing problems behind Dominion lines. The payment was 40 million galactic credits. The estimated time to complete the job was 3 weeks. Al blinked his 4 eyes slowly as he read the payment amount again. 40 million credits was an enormous sum for 12 soft-skinned humans from a small planet called Earth. The Dominion was either very desperate or very stupid with their money. He posted the contract on the guild's job board and waited for volunteers. Normally, a contract this valuable would attract dozens of applicants within hours. Warriors would compete for the honor of taking such a well-paid job. 3 days passed. Not a single mercenary had signed up. Al was confused and a little angry. He called his senior advisors to a meeting in the guild's great hall. Captain was the first to arrive. He was a veteran who had fought in over 200 campaigns. His body was covered in old wounds that told stories of battles survived. "Explain this to me," Al demanded, gesturing at the empty sign-up sheet. "Why does no one want this contract? 40 million credits to kill 12 humans. It should be easy money." Shifted uncomfortably. "High Commander, the warriors are not cowards. They simply know something that perhaps you do not." "Know what? Humans are weak. They have no claws, no armor on their skin, no poison. They cannot see well in the dark. They cannot hear as well as most species. They are fragile creatures who break easily." "That is true of regular humans," said Subcommander, who served as the guild's intelligence chief. She had entered the room quietly and now stood near the holographic display table. "But this contract is not for regular humans. It is for their special forces." "What difference does that make?" Activated the holographic display. "Let me show you something, Commander." This footage was recovered from a Dominion patrol ship. The patrol consisted of 200 soldiers, fully armed and armored. They encountered a 4-man human reconnaissance team on a jungle moon called Theta 7. The hologram flickered to life. It showed Dominion soldiers entering a thick forest, their weapons ready, their sensors scanning for enemies. They moved with confidence. 200 trained soldiers against 4 humans seemed like no contest at all. But as the footage continued, Al watched something strange and terrible happen. The Dominion soldiers began to die, not in open battle but in shadows and silence. Traps appeared from nowhere, hidden pits and hanging snares and explosive devices that seemed to grow from the ground itself. Soldiers vanished without a sound, pulled into the darkness by unseen hands. Those who went a search for their missing comrades never returned. The footage covered 72 hours. By the end, only 3 Dominion soldiers remained alive. They were not fighting anymore. They were huddled together in a small clearing, their weapons thrown aside, crying and begging for someone to rescue them. They had completely broken. The most disturbing part was this. Not once in the entire 72 hours did the camera ever capture a clear image of the humans. They were there, killing efficiently and without mercy, but they were never seen. They were ghosts. 200 soldiers, said quietly. 4 humans. The humans did not lose a single member, and according to intelligence reports, they were not even trying to fight. They were simply passing through the area and considered the Dominion patrol an inconvenience. Al stared at the final image frozen on the display. It showed the face of a Dominion commander, and the expression on that face was pure terror. "What are these humans?" Al whispered. "Stepped forward. They are something unique in the galaxy, Commander. Humans evolved as persistence predators on their home world. Do you know what that means?" "No." "It means they hunt by following their prey until it collapses from exhaustion. They are not the fastest creatures, they are not the strongest, but they do not stop. They do not give up. They will follow you for hours, for days, for weeks if necessary. Eventually, you become too tired to run anymore, and then they kill you." Paused, letting that sink in. Their special forces take this natural instinct and sharpen it like a blade. These are not ordinary soldiers. They are selected from the best of their best, and then they are trained in ways that would destroy most beings. They learn to survive in any environment. They learn to kill with any weapon or no weapon at all. They learn to endure pain and fear and hunger until these things have no power over them. "But they are still just flesh and blood," Al protested. "They can be killed." "Yes, they can be killed, but at what cost?" Brought up another display showing statistics. In the past year, the Dominion has lost over 6,000 soldiers trying to eliminate human special forces units. They have succeeded in killing exactly 14 humans. That is a ratio of more than 400 to 1. The room was silent. "This is why no one will take the contract," said. "It is not cowardice. It is mathematics. Taking this job means dying, probably without ever seeing the enemy who kills you. No amount of money is worth that." Al sat heavily in his command chair. He had led the guild for 50 years. He had never encountered a species that his warriors refused to fight. "Double the payment," he ordered. 80 million credits. Someone will take this contract." Shook her head sadly. "With respect, Commander, you could offer 800 million. The answer would be the same. Professional soldiers throughout the galaxy have learned an important lesson about humans, especially their special forces." "What lesson?" "That some prey is too dangerous to hunt. That some enemies are better left alone. And that there are some jobs, no matter how much they pay, that should simply never be taken." Al looked at the frozen terror on the Dominion commander's face one more time. He was beginning to understand. Nobody took the contract. Even alien soldiers won't take jobs hunting human special forces. Part 2: The Ghosts of Station. 6 months had passed since the Mercenary Guild refused the contract. The Dominion Council had tried other options. They had hired the Syndicate, a group of alien hunters who were famous for tracking and killing dangerous prey across the galaxy. 300 of their best trackers had been sent to find and eliminate the human special forces team. The lasted 6 days. By the end, fewer than 40 of them were still alive, and they had stopped reporting back to their commanders. They had simply disappeared into the jungle, never to be heard from again. Now the Dominion was preparing something much larger. Lieutenant Commander Sam Hayes stood on the observation deck of a captured Dominion listening post, watching the twin suns of the system set behind a massive gas giant. The view was beautiful, but Hayes was not thinking about beauty. He was thinking about survival. Hayes was 42 years old, with gray appearing in his short brown hair and lines around his eyes that came from too many years of war. He had served in human special forces for 20 years, first as a Navy SEAL, and then as a member of the elite Joint Task Force that operated behind enemy lines. He was calm, patient, and extremely dangerous. Beside him, Master Sergeant Price was cleaning her plasma rifle. Price was 35, with sun-darkened skin and strong hands that knew weapons the way a musician knows instruments. She had been with Hayes for 8 years, through a dozen impossible missions. Command sent a message. Price said without looking up from her work. The Dominion hired what was left of the syndicate to find us, 300 of their best hunters. When did they land? Hayes asked. 6 days ago. How many are left? Price looked up then, a small smile crossing her weathered face. Command lost count somewhere around 40. The stopped sending reports after day 4. Hayes nodded slowly. His 12-person team had been operating in this star system for 18 months. In that time, they had destroyed 14 supply depots where the Dominion stored weapons and food. They had killed 3 high-ranking Dominion commanders. They had freed 2 camps full of human prisoners who had been captured during the war. The Dominion called them ghosts. They called them demons. They called them nightmares that walked in the shadows. The truth was simpler. They were 12 highly trained humans who refused to quit. "Where is Tony?" Hayes asked. "Sergeant Collins is running the perimeter with Danny Martinez. They found tracks this morning. Looks like some scouts were trying to circle around behind us from the northern ridge." "Trying." "Past tense," Price confirmed. "Tony sends his regards. He says that we're not very good at moving quietly." Hayes allowed himself a small chuckle. Tony Collins was their best tracker, a former Army Ranger who had grown up hunting animals in the mountains of Colorado. On Earth, he could follow a trail that was days old through any terrain. Out here in the alien jungle, he was even more effective because they left much more obvious signs of their passing. The door behind them opened and Staff Sergeant Maria entered. She was 30 years old, compact and athletic, with dark hair pulled back tight against her head. Her expression was serious. "Commander, we have a problem." Hayes turned to face her. "Report." Long-range sensors picked up a Dominion fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 12 capital ships plus support vessels. They are setting up a blockade around the entire star system. Price stopped cleaning her rifle. "They are sealing us in." "No," Hayes said, studying the tactical display that had activated. His voice was calm, almost thoughtful. "They are sealing themselves in with us." He turned to face his 2 sergeants, and there was something like anticipation in his eyes. "Gather everyone. It is time to remind the Dominion why they should have left us alone." Within an hour, all 12 members of the team had assembled in the Listening Post's command center. The room was filled with the blue glow of holographic displays showing the Dominion fleet in orbit above them. Besides Hayes, Price, Collins, and Martinez, there was Chief Petty Officer Brad, a demolitions expert who could make a bomb out of almost anything. There was Sergeant Lisa, their medic, who could save your life with one hand while shooting enemies with the other. There was Corporal Pete, their communications specialist, who could hack into any system and make electronics do things their designers never intended. Sergeant Alex Turner handled heavy weapons. Staff Sergeant Reeves was their pilot, and the 2 members of the team were Corporals Jake and Amy Foster, both expert snipers who could hit a target from distances that should have been impossible. They stood together in the blue light, waiting for their commander to speak. "Here is the situation," Hayes began. His voice was steady and calm, the same tone he always used whether they were eating dinner or facing death. "The Dominion has committed significant resources to finally putting us down. They outnumber us approximately 8,000 to 12. They have ships in orbit that can strike anywhere on this moon. They have tanks and aircraft and an entire battalion of their best shock troops landing on the northern continent right now." He paused, looking at each of his people in turn. He knew their faces as well as he knew his own. He had bled with them, starved with them, fought beside them in the darkness when everything seemed hopeless. "Any questions so far?" Turner raised his hand. He was grinning. "Yeah, should we feel sorry for them now or later?" Laughter filled the room, breaking the tension. Even Hayes smiled. "Save your sympathy," he said. "We have work to do. What is our inventory?" Pulled up another display. "We have the captured Dominion shuttle, enough explosives to destroy a small city, the listening post's communication equipment, and about 400 hunting rifles that their previous owners will not be needing anymore. And most importantly, Collins added, stepping forward, we have 18 months of prepared positions, hidden supplies, and complete knowledge of every part of this moon. We know this ground better than anyone alive. Hayes nodded. The Dominion thinks they are starting a hunt. What they do not understand is that the hunt started the moment they entered this system. They just do not know that they are the prey. He turned back to the tactical display, already seeing the battle unfold in his mind. He had fought impossible odds before. He had won before. He would win again. Here is what we are going to do. Outside, the twin suns had fully set. The jungle was dark and full of shadows. Somewhere in the distance, Dominion dropships were descending toward the surface, carrying thousands of soldiers who believed they were coming to hunt humans. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Even alien soldiers won't take jobs hunting human special forces. Part 3, The Long Night begins. Fleet Commander stood on the bridge of his battle cruiser, a massive ship called the Righteous Fury. Through the viewing window, he watched dozens of troop transports descend toward the jungle moon below. Each transport carried hundreds of soldiers. In total, 8,000 of the Dominion's finest warriors were landing on the surface, equipped with the most advanced weapons and armor that the Empire could provide. Against 12 humans. Felt confident. The previous attempts to kill the human team had failed because they had used the wrong approach. Hunters and mercenaries were not real soldiers. They did not have proper military discipline. They did not understand combined arms warfare. But his shock troops were different. They had vehicles, air support, and orbital weapons that could strike anywhere on the moon's surface within seconds. Commander, his tactical officer reported, all units have landed successfully. Ground forces are establishing forward operating bases at 6 different locations. Excellent, begin the sweep pattern. I want those humans found and eliminated within 48 hours. Sir, the ground commander is requesting additional information about the enemy. He says the reports from the syndicate were disturbing. Waved his tendril dismissively. They were hunters, not soldiers. They were not prepared for real military opposition. Our shock troops will not make the same mistakes. On the surface of the moon, the Dominion forces spread out according to their training. Units of 50 soldiers each moved through the dense jungle in careful formations. Their sensors swept the area constantly, looking for heat signatures or movement. Their communications maintained constant contact with the command center. They had been hunting for 3 hours when the first unit went silent. Sergeant Brad watched them through the scope of a captured rifle. Beside him, hidden in the undergrowth, Amy Foster did the same. They had been in position since before dawn, completely still, invisible to even the most advanced sensors. 52 contacts, Foster whispered, her voice barely audible. For heavy weapons, 2 communications specialists, standard formation. I count 2 officers, added. They are probably wondering why their sensors are not picking up anything. 3 kilometers away, Danny Martinez sat in a concealed hole covered with leaves and branches. He was monitoring a small electronic device that was feeding false information to every Dominion sensor within range. To their equipment, the jungle appeared empty except for normal wildlife. The human heartbeats, the hidden weapons, the carefully prepared traps, none of it registered. This is Hayes. The commander's voice came through their encrypted communication channel. Status. Unit 7 is entering the primary engagement zone now, requesting permission to fire. Granted, make it loud. We want their attention. Smiled and prepared his shot. Copy that. Foster, take the officers. I have the communications specialists. On your mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. 2 shots rang out at exactly the same moment. 2 Dominion officers fell to the ground dead before anyone even heard the sound. 2 more shots followed immediately, and both communications specialists collapsed, their equipment sparking and destroyed. Chaos erupted in the Dominion formation. Soldiers dove for cover, their weapons sweeping the tree line, but there was nothing to see. No heat signatures appeared on their sensors. No movement registered on their equipment, just jungle and shadows and death. Then the mines exploded. And Foster had already moved to their secondary position by the time the explosions tore through the Dominion unit. They flowed through the jungle like water, silent and fast, while the sounds of screaming echoed behind them. Of the 52 soldiers in Unit 7, only 11 survived the initial attack. They were found 2 days later, wandering in circles, their weapons abandoned, their minds destroyed by what they had experienced. They had never seen their attackers, not once. Across the moon, similar scenes unfolded throughout the night. Units stumbled into ambushes that appeared from nowhere. Supply vehicles exploded without warning. Communications went dark without explanation. Soldiers vanished from their positions and were never seen again. By dawn, the Dominion had lost 400 soldiers. They had not confirmed a single human casualty. Commander stared at the reports in disbelief. "This is impossible," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "How can 12 individuals cause this much damage?" His tactical officer hesitated before responding. He had been researching human military history through the night, and what he had found disturbed him greatly. "Commander, I have been reviewing records of human special operations. There is a pattern." "Explain." During their wars on their home planet, small human special forces teams regularly operated behind enemy lines for months at a time. They would destroy entire military operations through exactly this type of warfare. One documented case involved a 6-man team that held off a force of over 5,000 enemies for 11 days while killing 90% of them. "That must be propaganda." "I thought so too, Commander, but I checked the records against independent sources. If anything, the official accounts were less impressive than what actually happened." Sank into his command chair. He was beginning to understand something terrible. "They are not fighting us," he said slowly. "They are teaching us fear." That night the attacks continued. More units were ambushed. More supplies were destroyed. More soldiers simply disappeared. The Dominion troops began to see threats everywhere. They jumped at shadows. They shot at sounds that turned out to be animals. They began to lose trust in their equipment, their officers, and each other. Lieutenant Commander Hayes observed all of this from a ridge overlooking one of the Dominion camps. Beside him, Maria was recording everything on a small camera. "They are breaking faster than I expected," said quietly. Hayes nodded. "They have never fought an enemy like us before. Their entire military experience is based on fighting other large armies in open battles. They do not know how to handle opponents they cannot see." "What is next, Commander?" Hayes studied the camp below. He could see the Dominion soldiers moving nervously between their tents, their weapons always ready, their heads constantly turning to scan the darkness around them. "We keep the pressure on," he said. "We do not let them sleep. We do not let them rest. We make them understand that nowhere is safe, that we can reach them anywhere, anytime we choose." And then Hayes turned to look at her, and in the moonlight his eyes were hard and cold. "And then we destroy them completely." Below them, a Dominion soldier suddenly screamed and fell. No one had heard a shot. No one had seen where it came from. The other soldiers immediately opened fire in random directions, wasting ammunition on trees and shadows while their comrade bled on the ground. Somewhere in the darkness, Jake lowered his silenced rifle and moved to his next position. He had a long list of targets, and the night was still young. Even alien soldiers won't take jobs hunting human special forces. Part 4: The Devils of. By the 5th day, the Dominion ground forces had stopped moving forward. No commander had ordered them to stop. No official message had told them to halt their advance, but unit after unit had simply stopped trying to push deeper into the jungle. The soldiers huddled in their defensive positions, weapons pointed outward at the endless green darkness, refusing to take another step. They were afraid. Corporal Pete sat in a hidden position overlooking one of the larger Dominion camps. He had a small device that allowed him to listen to their communications. What he heard told him everything he needed to know about the enemy's mental state. "They say the humans never sleep," one Dominion soldier was saying to another. His voice was shaking. "They hunt all day and all night. They can see in total darkness. They can smell fear." "I heard they eat the bodies," another soldier replied. "That is why we never find remains, just blood and empty armor." "My cousin's unit found a message yesterday. It was written in our language, pinned to a tree with a knife. It said, 'You should have stayed home.' There were 40 soldiers in that unit, and not one of them heard anyone approach." Smiled slightly. The note had been Sergeant Lisa's idea. The humans called it psychological warfare. The goal was not just to kill the enemy but to break their minds, to make them so afraid that they could not function as soldiers anymore. It was working. "This is Hayes. Report on enemy condition." "Commander, they are finished. About 60% of their original force is still alive, but almost none of them are willing to fight anymore. Half of them are seeing humans behind every tree. The other half just want to go home." "Good, time for Phase 4. Meet at Position Bravo in 2 hours." "Copy that. What is Phase 4? Hayes' voice carried a hint of something that might have been dark amusement. "We have been playing defense. Now it is time to attack." That night, the Dominion camp known as Forward Operating Base 17 experienced something that survivors would later describe as a visit from devils. It began at midnight. Every light in the camp suddenly went dark. Backup generators failed. Emergency batteries died. The entire camp was plunged into complete blackness, darker than anything the soldiers had ever experienced. Even their advanced night vision equipment stopped working. Then the screaming started. Senior Trooper was standing guard at the edge of the camp. One moment, his partner was beside him. The next moment, there was a soft thump and his partner was gone, pulled into the darkness without making a sound. Opened his mouth to call for help. Before he could make a sound, something hard pressed against the back of his head. "Do not move," a voice whispered. The voice spoke his language but with a strange accent that he had never heard before. "Do not speak, just listen." Froze completely. His hearts were beating so fast he thought they might explode. "You are going to survive tonight. You will be the messenger. When this is over, you will tell your commanders what happened here. You will tell them that this is what happens when you hunt humans. Do you understand?" Managed a very small nod. "Good, close your eyes and count to 100. If you open them before you finish, you die." The pressure against his head disappeared. Squeezed his eyes shut and began counting, his voice trembling with each number. By the time he reached 100 and opened his eyes, the camp was destroyed. Supply tents were burning. Vehicles sat useless, their engines torn apart with surgical precision. The bodies of 43 soldiers lay arranged in neat rows, their weapons placed respectfully on their chests. The most terrifying part was the silence. Not a single shot had been fired. The humans had passed through the camp like smoke, killing with blades and bare hands, and no one had managed to raise an alarm. No one had even screamed loud enough to wake the rest of the camp. They could have killed everyone. They had chosen not to. The message was clear. We are in control. We decide who lives and who dies. You are here only because we allow it. Commander received the report in his quarters. His tendrils trembled as he read the account of what had happened. The young soldier had needed medical treatment for shock. He kept repeating the same words over and over. They moved like shadows. They moved like death. "How is this possible?" asked no one in particular. How do beings so physically weak achieve this level of killing ability? His aide, a young officer named, stood nervously by the door. He had more information, but he was afraid to share it. "Speak," ordered, seeing the hesitation. "Commander, there are records from early contact between our scouts and human colony worlds. The scouts wrote reports about human nature." "Go on." "The reports said that humans were unique among known species. They passed survival knowledge from generation to generation. They remember everything and forget nothing. Their military forces trained together for years, not just in how to fight, but in how to survive anything. Their special forces go through selection processes that eliminate over 90% of candidates. And the ones who pass, they are subjected to training that would be considered torture by most civilizations. They are starved, frozen, exhausted, and pushed beyond all reasonable limits. The purpose is to break them completely so they can be rebuilt into something harder." "Why would anyone volunteer for this?" Swallowed nervously. "They compete for the privilege, Commander. Thousands of humans apply for Special Forces selection every year. They believe that suffering makes them stronger. Their special forces are forged through deliberate pain until failure becomes impossible for them. They do not know how to quit. The concept does not exist in their minds." Looked at the casualty reports on his display. Over 3,000 dead in 5 days. More than a third of his landing force, destroyed by 12 humans who still had not been clearly seen by any sensor or camera. "Get me a communication channel to the fleet," he ordered. "Priority 1. "What are your orders, Commander?" His voice was empty when he responded. "I am requesting immediate evacuation. We are leaving." "But Commander, the mission is not complete." "The mission is over." Turned to face his aide, and there was real fear in his eyes. "We came here to kill 12 humans. We have lost 3,000 soldiers. At this rate, we will be completely destroyed within a week, and they will still be out there watching us die." He paused, thinking about everything he had learned in the past 5 days. "I understand now why the Mercenary Guild refused this contract. Why every professional military force in the galaxy will not take jobs hunting human special forces. It is not cowardice. It is wisdom. You do not hunt these humans. You survive them if you are lucky, and you pray you never have to face them again." His request for evacuation was sent to Dominion High Command. While he waited for a response, did not sleep. He sat in his quarters with the lights on, staring at the door, waiting for devils that he could not see and could not stop. Even alien soldiers won't take jobs hunting human special forces. Part 5. The legend grows. Commander's request for evacuation was. Dominion High Command sent back a simple message. "Complete your mission. Failure is not acceptable." They did not understand what was happening on the jungle moon. They only saw numbers. 8,000 soldiers against 12 humans. The math seemed obvious to them. So was forced to continue the operation. 2 weeks later, his entire fleet was destroyed. The 12-person human team, using captured Dominion shuttles and knowledge they had gathered during 18 months of operations, had infiltrated the orbiting warships one by one. They had sabotaged engines. They had set fires in ammunition storage areas. They had turned the Dominion's own weapons against them. By the time anyone realized what was happening, it was too late. Chain reactions tore through ship after ship. The great battlecruiser Righteous Fury broke apart in a ball of fire that could be seen from the planet below. Of the entire fleet, only one escape pod survived. Inside was Commander, alone and terrified. The humans had left him alive deliberately. He was another messenger carrying another message. He floated in space for 3 days before rescue ships arrived. During that time, he had nothing to do but think about what had happened. He had arrived with 12 capital ships, 8,000 soldiers, and absolute confidence in victory. He was leaving with nothing but nightmares. The humans had also given him a data chip. When Dominion intelligence officers examined it, they found complete records of every crime the Dominion had committed against human colonies during the war. Murders, torture, destruction of civilian cities, all of it documented with dates, locations, and evidence. Within a month, that information had spread across the entire galaxy. Species that had been neutral in the war now turned against the Dominion. Trade agreements were canceled. Diplomatic relationships ended. The Dominion found itself isolated and alone. Within 2 months, the Dominion Council was begging for peace. 12 humans had won a war that their species had been losing. 3 months after the end of the war, High Commander Al of the Mercenary Guild received an unusual message. A human military officer wanted to meet with him to discuss cooperation. Al agreed. He was curious. The human who entered his council chamber looked ordinary at first glance. She was average height, with short gray hair and calm brown eyes. She wore a simple uniform with few decorations. Nothing about her appeared dangerous. But Al had learned not to judge humans by their appearance. "High Commander," the woman said. Her voice was quiet and confident. "Thank you for meeting with me. I am Colonel Shaw, Human Systems Alliance Special Operations Command." "Colonel Shaw," Al replied. "I admit I am curious about why you wanted this meeting." "It is simple. The war is over, but the galaxy is still dangerous. The Human Alliance wants to build relationships with professional military organizations. Your guild has 3,000 years of experience. Our species has barely been in space for 200 years. We could learn from each other. You want to hire us? We want to work with you, share training methods, cooperate against common threats like pirates and criminal organizations. Your reputation is excellent and we respect excellence." Al leaned back in his chair, studying the human carefully. She seemed relaxed, but he noticed that her eyes never stopped moving, constantly scanning the room, noting every door and window and shadow. "I remember," he said slowly, "that my guild refused a contract to hunt your special forces. I am aware of that. Your species fascinates me. By every logical measure, you should be easy targets. You are weaker than most intelligent species. You have no natural weapons, limited senses, and fragile bodies. Yet 12 of your special operators destroyed an entire fleet and ended a war. I have studied the reports many times. I still do not fully understand how it was possible." Shaw smiled slightly. "May I tell you a story, High Commander?" "Please." "When I was young, my grandmother told me about wolves. They were predators on our home planet. They were faster and stronger than humans in every way. Our ancestors had no claws and no fangs. They should have been prey, but they were not." "Why not?" "Because humans do not fight alone. We fight together, we plan together, we suffer together, and we refuse to give up." She paused, her eyes meeting his directly. "A wolf can run faster than a human, but a wolf gets tired. A human will chase that wolf for hours, for days if necessary, until the wolf cannot run anymore. We call it persistence hunting. We evolved to be the most stubborn species our world ever produced." She leaned forward slightly. "Our special forces are the form of that nature. They are ordinary humans who have been transformed through shared suffering and total dedication. They do not win because they are stronger or faster. They win because they will not stop. They cannot be discouraged. They cannot be scared into quitting. They cannot be broken. You can kill them, but you cannot make them give up." Al was silent for a long moment. "I understand now," he said finally. "It is not about the chances of winning or losing. It is that even if you win, you lose. The cost would be higher than any payment could ever cover." "That is part of it," Shaw agreed. "But there is another part." "What is that?" "Our species remembers. If you hunt our special forces and somehow win, you have not solved your problem. You have created a grudge that will last for generations. Humans do not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not stop until the debt is paid." She extended her hand toward him. Al had learned that this was a human gesture of friendship and agreement. We prefer to make friends, High Commander. We are much better friends than enemies. Al looked at her hand. He thought about the Dominion fleet burning in space. He thought about 3,000 dead soldiers and 12 humans who had never even been wounded. He took her hand. The partnership between the Guild and the Human Alliance was formed that day. Over the following years, it became one of the most successful military cooperations in galactic history. Warriors served alongside human special forces in many operations, and they learned what the rest of the galaxy was slowly coming to understand. Humans were predators wearing the appearance of prey. They were hunters who never stopped chasing, never stopped fighting, never gave up. And their special forces were the sharpest point of that evolutionary weapon, perfected through thousands of years of warfare into something that had no equal among the stars. The story of the 12 operators who won the Human Dominion War became legend. It was taught in military schools across the galaxy as the perfect example of how a small force could defeat a much larger enemy, and it served as a permanent warning to anyone who might consider hunting human special forces. Some prey is not worth catching. Some hunters should never be hunted. And some jobs, no matter how much money they offer, should simply never be taken. The humans had proven this truth with fire and blood. The galaxy would not forget the lesson. End.